Okay, let's move on to our next case here. In an exclusive interview with 12 News, State Senator Annalise Ortiz says that she won't stop warning her district about potential ICE raids, even under threat of federal investigation.
This is about ICE targeting school kids and their parents. I was simply trying to let families who go to that school know to stay at home for the day if they are at risk. And right now, all of us are at risk.
Ortiz, who represents parts of Maryvale and Glendale, posted alerts online telling families to stay home after reports of ICE activity near a school. Those posts prompted Senate President Warren Petersen to notify the U.S. Attorney's Office, accusing Ortiz of possibly violating federal law.
Petersen called her actions undermining law enforcement and said public servants have a duty to uphold the law. The U.S. Attorney's Office declined to confirm it if an investigation is underway. Ortiz claims she's on solid legal ground, saying the federal law protects her free speech. So, Hector, let's say that all of a sudden she thought that, you should be able to use cocaine, and she tipped off a drug dealer that there's going to be a raid. Would that be allowed?
I think that's a little different, because now what the hypothetical you're giving, there's a little bit more involved in terms of calling, picking up the phone, telling these individuals, hey, I've got, certain information here. And in
But
some
she
way,
is communicating this to the neighborhoods, correct?
Right.
Stay home from school, she says.
But I think the distinction here is she getting the information just like any other citizen could, publicly available. She's not getting a tip, at least from the information that's been reported. She's not getting a tip from, through her, her position as a senator in the state legislature. She's not, in some kind of briefing where, say, law enforcement or Department of Homeland Security is giving some special update to legislators. That would be different. I think if that was the case, that changes the nature of her conduct, and I think you'd be looking at the U.S. Attorney's Office or, some federal law enforcement agency looking at her conduct. But if she's getting the information from public means like any other person, and she is posting it out there, I'll tell you, I'd be really, really surprised if you have federal law enforcement looking at this in terms of whether or not she committed any kind of federal offense. So she is posting this information out there like any other citizen who says, hey, I just drove by Circle K and I saw ICE out on the corner, and just be careful. Now, that in and of itself, I just don't see that running afoul of any kind of criminal offense, federal or state. Now,
but should an elected official be doing that? I think the speed limit on Piastoa Parkway is ridiculous. Right. Everybody should do 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's a different analysis. That's a whole different question in terms of her. She took an oath as a state senator that she would uphold the law, and that's a different issue. I mean, so again.
It's not as cut and dry, obviously.
Right. That's a very, very different issue, and I think there's going to be more to be said in terms of whether or not she, in the eyes of her constituents and maybe others, whether she's fit to hold office given the oath that she made. But did she violate federal state law? No.
Okay, so technically for this situation,
right.
No federal offenses.
There's no dox. I read that there was some allegation that she was doxing. Again, from what I read, I don't see that being an issue at all for her. So if she, there's more here to the story, and there's going to be more I think that comes out. But,
sure.
But for the time being, I would be really surprised if we hear that there's any kind of criminal sanctions here.
Yeah, well, we'll hear from the U.S. Attorney General's office. All right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, coming up.